All right, good morning. Good morning to those of you who are live with us here at the event, and very good morning to those of you who are on our online environment. Thank you very much for coming today, for participating in one of the very first conferences to look at sustainable development and management here in Armenia. On behalf of the British Embassy, on behalf of the Europe campus of the University of York, it's a pleasure to be here to talk to you, to guide this discussion that we're going to be having with you today about sustainable development and management, a global perspective, looking at both the Armenian side of things and the global side. We've divided the sessions today into two specific areas. The first one is looking at the macro perspective of sustainable development and management and the future of a circular economy. The second session that we will have today is what we will call the micro perspective, where we get much more into the specific areas, looking at things like green supply chain management, transparency, reporting, the financial side of green, and so on. This conference is intended as a precursor to the Global Change Climate Summit that's happening in Glasgow in November. It's critical that we don't just look at things from a macro perspective about what's happening in the world, but we get back down to the local perspective. And that is the real focus of today. The main goal of what we're doing today is not simply to say, this is what we need to get to from a global side. We want to look at things from an Armenian perspective. We want to look at the great things that are happening now inside the country. But we also want to look at different tools and techniques from a global perspective that we can start implementing, that we can start looking at. So this conference is intended as an important bridging point to where we have got to so far and where we need to get to in the future. So again, on behalf of the Embassy here in Armenia, on behalf of City College, the European campus of the University of York, thank you very much for being with us today. My name is Les Samozi. I'm going to be moderating our discussions today, both for the keynote speakers that we have and as well for the panel discussants. I'd like at this point to introduce to you His Excellency Ambassador Gallagher, who's here to welcome you on behalf of the Embassy. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I will stand in the letters since I have some notes of this my words today, but first and foremost, I'd just like to say to everybody, it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm really pleased that we could organise this event now. We are about a month away from the climate change conference in Glasgow, the COP26, which is really, really a crucial moment on the journey to finding a solution to the challenge of climate change. And honestly, the call for collective action on climate change is getting louder. The People's Climate Vote, which was the biggest ever world survey on climate change, polled 1.2 million people around the world. It was published this year, and it revealed that roughly 2/3 of the global population consider climate change to be a global emergency. And despite the lockdown orders and reduced economic activity, 2020 saw record temperatures. We saw fires raging across the world. We saw storms intensifying. The science is clear. The climate crisis is urgent, and we need to act now. But we are seeing some acceleration in climate action. At the Climate Ambition Summit, the UK held in December of last year, we heard national climate action plans from 75 leaders. And all of this is very welcome, but it's not enough to meet the ambitions of the midterm review of the Paris Agreement. The latest UNFCCC initial National Determined Contributions Synthesis report showed that the combined impact of the updated national defined contributions of 75 countries would only lead to a less than 1% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030 compared to 2010.
although 122 countries have yet to submit updated or revised nationally defined contributions, we're still far below the science-based target to reduce emissions between 45 to 50% by 2030. And this is what we need. So we must do more, and we must do it urgently. And the UK will play a key role this year. We're hosting the UN Climate Change Summit in Glasgow in November, working in partnership with Italy. We'll bring 196 countries and the European Union together for 12 days of talks. And this must be the moment that every country and every part of society embraces its responsibilities to protect the planet. And only through a step change in the pace and scale of ambition at COP26 will we have a realistic chance of keeping the most dangerous impacts of climate change at bay. So in the run-up to COP26, the UK is working with every nation to reach an agreement on how to tackle climate change. Many nations right now are developing or updating nationally determined contributions. And this is the year, we determine if we can get on track to meet the Paris Agreement goals. So with only 1 month to go, we're at a crucial moment. And we're encouraged by Armenia's ambitious commitments and are keen to support Armenia in delivering their climate goals. Although Armenia has a small contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions, it is an active participant in the global climate dialogue. Armenia has proven to be both a like-minded and ambitious partner. In the updated nationally defined contributions, Armenia committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. We're also impressed at how Armenia is working on climate action while battling the economic impacts of the pandemic and of last year's conflict. The recovery presents an opportunity to build back better, as we say, placing priority on economic activities that are green, social and sustainable. And a critical part of the solution is putting green supply chains and sustainable economic growth at the forefront of Armenia's climate response. So Armenia can play a positive role in reducing emissions in order to achieve net zero and meet the goal of keeping global temperature rise to within 1.5 degrees. Together we need to build partnerships and launch ambitious actions to tackle climate change to ensure we protect Armenia's diverse environment. Addressing climate change is not a topic of discussion only for policymakers, though. Youth and civil society activists have amplified the demand for an urgent and effective response. The time has now come for everybody to be part of this global movement. So I'd like to thank our partners, City College, University of York, Europe campus, for making this conference possible. And particularly Professor Leslie Samosi, Director of Pan-European Executive MBA, for kindly agreeing to moderate today's conference. I'm also very grateful to all the invited experts who will either deliver keynote presentations or speak at the panel. It's your commitment and support that will help inform today's discussions and will encourage the ambition needed to confront this global challenge. So thank you very much for coming, and I wish you a successful conference and enlightening discussions. I look forward to hearing all about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for that welcome and for setting the framework and the focus for what we're going to be doing today. We're now going to open the first session that we had talked about in terms of the focus on sustainable development and the future of a circular economy. We're going to kick off this particular session with 3 keynote addresses. The first keynote is going to be related to environmental sustainability and the development for business practice. We're then going to have a keynote on greening the supply chain and the development of the circular economy. And then a final keynote address related to sustainable economic growth and the role of competitive and innovative SMEs in terms of achieving sustainable development. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Lucienne Manouchian, who's the founder and CEO of Resilient Sustainability Services, who's going to be giving our first keynote address related to environmental sustainability and the development of business practice. Lucienne.